Hello and welcome to our series of interviews with vendor channel chiefs. Today I'm delighted to be joined by Frank Schwittay, who's the VP of Europe for Trend Micro. Frank, welcome, good to see you. How are you doing?
Yeah, thank you. I'm very well. Thank you, Alastair. It's good to see you. It's good to be in touch again. We haven't met, you and I haven't met for over a year, actually 1.5 years. So Canalys Forum in October always is a good ramp up time to again come together. I'm very gracious that we could work together again this year with you, and I'm happy to be here and chat with you about the business.
Thanks, Frank, and it's great to have you on board. So let me ask you my first question, which is, how are you personally coping with the current situation? Are you meeting customers again? Are you back on planes? Are you in hotel rooms?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, we still, I think most of us are starting at least to feel to get out of this working from home, no travel type of, agenda. And actually, personally, I can share with you that actually since nearly 2 months, I am back on the road or back in the planes and traveling across Europe to see obviously our own people, our employees, our customers and partners. And it's an incredible experience for me, because after nearly 1.5 years of just seeing everybody via video, right, on the screen, and then going back to meet people, again, be it internally or customer market facing, is such a big difference. And I hear that also from a lot of colleagues and peers industry. So I definitely can say that I'm starting to taste and feel again how doing business felt and used to be like before the pandemic hit us all, right?
Yeah, it's amazing how quickly we kind of slip back into that way of operating, isn't it? Despite the time that's elapsed.
Yeah.
And of course, Trend is extremely channel focused. A lot of your business goes through your partners. So what can you say about how your partners are performing? What are you seeing when you talk to your partners around the region?
Yeah, I think first of all, I would like to say that I think within the entire ecosystem, so both vendors and partners and channel partners, we all went through the same phase of, oh my God, what is going on in the pandemic? You no longer could visit and do face-to-face customer meetings or, partner and customer meetings. So I think as much as vendors may have struggled in the past or have been struggling, I think for partners, for the channel, it was exactly the same. And I definitely sensed that from talking to our key partners. But then over the time, I think we kind of maybe got used to that and found the recipe on still how to do good business together in the cybersecurity ecosystem, with customers and partners, and still be successful and still thrive for success and nice customer wins, even though physical meetings, were not possible for quite a long time. I think also what the pandemic, accelerated to some extent in our industry is, opportunities that were there already pre the pandemic actually got amplified as much as challenges or issues. Yeah, and so we still had to navigate through that kind of possibly more rough water, but at the end of the day, as everything is still people business, at least in my view, even if you couldn't meet face to face, you still can, continue to do trustworthy business, because at the end of the day, I think it's all about having trust and trustworthy relationship, and you can do that. I think most of us have been surprised how much you can actually accomplish without traveling and without meeting face to face.
Yeah, absolutely. We've certainly seen the channel step up in terms of digital marketing, digital sales, virtual sales, that kind of thing. But would you say there are certain partner types that are doing better than others?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, for a partner to be successful with the customer landscape, and regardless if it is more generic IT partner or specific cybersecurity focused partner, the recipe for the success, I think, did not necessarily change a lot, right? Those partners who understood how to work together with vendors and how to come up with the right, solution, product, service offering, and being able to articulate value and show value to customers, that recipe to me hasn't changed. Yeah, so again, I would say some partners who have been already more successful than others pre the pandemic possibly could again amplify that journey to become even more successful, and possibly partners who started to struggle in certain areas before the pandemic possibly went even into more rough water. Yeah. Because again, even with the means of digital conversation and digital marketing, if you don't have the right competency in your domain, it's going to be hard. Yeah. So I would say, if I may, that with those partners where we already have been pretty successful, possibly the success in many cases actually became even bigger and amplified, and some other partners, possibly also some partner types, maybe partners that have not so much yet embracing the SaaS environment, for example, they possibly would have gone into more trouble, into more issues.
So have you seen then the landscape, your channel landscape, change notably, substantially, or
I definitely would not call it substantially, and definitely not in a super disruptive way. I think, the way I look at the partner ecosystem, the channel per se, obviously within cybersecurity, number one, you have every so often you have certain phases of innovation and disruption and paradigm shifts. I mean, cloud transformation, what we may discuss in a few minutes, obviously is a major trigger for certain transformational dynamics in the partner landscape. But if I look at, obviously we are serving SMB customers, and small enterprise, large enterprise, up to global accounts, and those specific partner types that have been focusing also possibly from a specific vertical or industry perspective, this to me actually was pretty stable. I think it's more really about some major, changes in the value chain, like for example the big move towards SaaS business and SaaS offerings, and then to some extent obviously the cloud transformation. This definitely these are paradigm shifts that already started to happen before the pandemic, right? So from that perspective, just some dynamic that we already started to see already in 2019, I would say.
Yeah, and I'd like to drill down into that SaaS topic a bit later. But before I do that, maybe if you could talk about what you've seen from a cybersecurity perspective within your portfolio. Obviously, this has been an amazing time for the security market in terms of driving growth opportunities. But what have you seen in terms of the most important drivers of growth for Trend and for your partners? And have there been any surprises?
Yeah, I mean, high level, I think I would say that obviously in general for cybersecurity, there's still the same kind of three main drivers. Number one is obviously the evolving threat landscape itself, right? That requires customers and organizations to constantly evaluate whether their existing security posture management is basically mature enough. But then we have the digital transformation, which is obviously a major paradigm shift in certain industries, and cloud adoption and transformation to cloud, moving more towards SaaS ecosystems. I definitely would say, and in some markets, in some countries, we have seen that the pandemic actually has accelerated some of these paradigm shifts. Yeah, and then the third big trigger obviously is the entire regulatory dimension, yeah, which also, I mean, I don't know, nobody seems to talk about GDPR any longer, but actually this was a huge trigger a few years ago. But obviously in certain verticals and industries, there is some very specific regulations, yeah. But I definitely would say from a digital transformation perspective, a lot of projects and initiatives got kicked off, because obviously I think a lot of companies are realizing that actually the pandemic, although it's meant to a lot of organizations a huge crisis and some huge challenges, but it also potentially gives them, moving out of the pandemic, an additional competitive edge if they actually do modernize their entire business model, and digital transformation, and hence a different way of applying security plays a major part in that for sure.
And on that regulatory point, obviously that requires partners to have strong levels of expertise and knowledge in those regulatory environments and to help customers, with those challenges. So are you seeing that your partners are stepping up to that? Do you see that they are investing in those skills? And are there any other skills that you think are in particular high demand that partners should be investing in?
Yeah, I mean, on the regulatory side, for sure, we do see, we do see some partners. I mean, typically, that the big partners, integrators, big system houses, where they have very, very deep, also organizational specific industry type of teams, seller teams and consultants. There's definitely an awareness of that topic, and it has been there. And some of them are actually definitely going deeper. But some other partners, they just don't have the muscles, if I may call it like that, and the resources to do that. But this is actually a fantastic example, Alastair, for me, where this actually makes a true partnership between a partner and a vendor. Yeah? Because obviously, as a cybersecurity vendor, we claim that we have definitely some, not only we have some DNA and some core competency in the way on how companies can protect against cybersecurity threats, but as the regulatory dynamic got much more into the center of security discussions, we also obviously created some expertise and knowledge in-house. And this is, I think, a very good example that shows how actually today, in today's world, a partner and a vendor could, or I even say should, work together. Yeah? Because at the end of the day, it's how can a partner and a vendor combine their knowledge and complement their experience and skills to maximize the value in front of the customer. Right?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a great piece of advice. And does that apply to other skills areas? Because that's the general feedback we hear from the channel a lot, that the skills shortage is a big issue, particularly in the cybersecurity space.
Yeah, there's definitely a very huge skill shortage of, let's call them cyber security experts or subject matter experts. And the dilemma is that actually that shortage is in the entire value chain. So the customers themselves are struggling with that shortage of skills and resources, the channel, the partner ecosystem, and then obviously even vendors. Yeah, which is a challenge. And this is exactly why I believe, given those shortage situations and dynamics, this is exactly where you can build an opportunity. Because if the right partner, collaborates with the right vendor, then you can actually overcome or, at least minimize the impact of that shortage. Yeah, but it even goes to another level, right? I just give you an example without going too deep, too technical, also in the interest of time, maybe. But if you would ask really a typical CISO in a small, medium, and definitely large enterprise customer, it's really in the SOC teams where they are struggling the most, possibly with shortage of human capital and then skills and resources. Yeah, and security solutions actually come with an opportunity to actually help those shortage situations in existing SOC environments, and this is where actually all of these platform strategies that are now coming, from cybersecurity vendors like Trend Micro, but also others, of course. Yeah, those security platform strategies actually not only increase the security posture and the maturity of the security posture in the SOC for CISO, but it actually helps to manage that challenge with shortage of skills and human capital. Yeah, so there's basically a side effect of that.
That's interesting. Yeah, I know that Trend has attributed some of its growth to a consolidation of security suppliers by customers. I think you said that in your latest earnings. Is that something you're seeing in EMEA? And how much do you think it's related to that platform strategy?
Yeah, I think, Alastair, for too long, actually security was looked at from a product/feature level, right? So, and some of these products and features in the past only worked kind of in a silo, right? But there was no interconnection, there was no, the entire discussion around integration through APIs, etc. But I mean, as if you clearly look at our strategy and obviously also the strategy of some of our peers and neighbors in the cybersecurity space, everybody tries and is about to move into more kind of converged platform play, yeah, because to overcome that ever evolving, more complexity in the threat landscape, there is no longer the room to have isolated products and features. It's all about, does an organization, even if it's a small enterprise organization, do they actually have the right kind of platform-centric threat defense center where there is correlation and connection to all of the different layers in the network and users? Because at the end of the day, the CISO, he is very concerned about visibility, simplicity, but obviously also speed of defense. And with point products, truly, that's at least our philosophy. This is no longer possible. And no surprise that all analysts are also, articulating that necessity that companies need to consolidate platforms, and also in that is the play, which are the vendors who actually can offer those type of platform ecosystems.
So given that all the vendors are pursuing a partner-led strategy, and a lot of vendors are moving down this platform approach, what do you think makes Trend different? How can Trend attract partners, and why should partners work with Trend versus some of your competition?
Yeah, I mean, I at least think that we can say in an authentic way that Trend Micro in Europe definitely always has been pretty much partner friendly and partner centric, I would say. Okay. And I mean, there's a lot of partners in all of the major markets in Europe that have been working together with Trend for many, many years, some even for decades, right? And possibly for a partner, they look at the vendor possibly at 3 dimensions. Number one, obviously the vendor has to have the right technology that actually is requested by my customers as a partner, of course, right? That's number one. Number two is obviously there needs to be a commercial framework and a commercial playing field where I as a partner can also, get my living in that value chain, right? So in terms of margin and certain, bonus schemes and deal registration, all of these kind of commercial aspects of how to work together. And the third element, which to us always has been super important, is the people component, right? Although we are working in the so-called high-tech sector, and yes, if we go deep into the discussions, the security solutions discussions with customers together with partners, it is getting quickly into architectural discussions and of course features and specific use cases. But at the end of the day, and actually the pandemic has shown this, at the end of the day, it's still the people who make business together. And if there is a trust level, this is, I think, what makes a sustainable long-term partnership. And I mean, we are one of those vendors, Alastair, as you know, and many of our partners know. I mean, we have been in business for over 30 years, and there's a lot of obviously young, so-called next-gen cybersecurity vendors, and some of them, pretend they are channel friendly, but sometimes, as examples tell us from the past, sometimes they shift in their strategy. So we think we have a track record of having that trusting in that loyalty, and it's a two-way street, and we definitely intend to continue that for sure.
A good answer. And now switching track a little bit, managed services is a big focus for Trend. So what do you see there in terms of the adoption of managed services within your partner base? Are your partners moving fast enough? What's your message to the channel? Yeah,
we definitely invite all of our partners to move to managed services, unless they already have done it inside their own strategy, of course. Yeah, I mean, there are partners who already started to execute on managed services years ago, right? But there's also partners who are possibly struggling with that, yeah, because again, this requires a certain you need to have a certain expertise. You need to understand how to do that and how to actually move and transition from this traditional on-prem and perpetual world over to, to managed services and SaaS offerings. And again, I think these are exactly aspects, like I mentioned on the regulatory side earlier on. These are examples and areas where true partnership between a partner and a vendor comes into play or not. Yeah. So obviously, as we have been focusing on managed services from our end, also maybe for the last 6 to 8 years, possibly. And as you say, we have a huge strategic focus on that. Again, we have a lot of experience that we have gained in that area in working with partners. So we are more than welcome. We are more than happy to invite partners, to work closely with us, and we invite partners to share their challenges, and we believe we can help them, because at the end, again, it's about joining forces and combining knowledge and expertise. But
is your message to the channel that if they move towards managed services, they will be more successful, they will grow faster? Or
Alistair, that's definitely a pattern that we have been seeing with most partners. Yeah. But also, so there's more growth in as a potential avenue for those partners. But what we also have seen is, and I think this is hopefully compelling for partners, at the end of the day, partners actually, they improve on their own P&L. Yeah, because at the end of the day, managed service offerings, or even if you just consider SaaS offerings, there's less cost involved from a partner perspective. Yeah, it's far more straightforward. Yeah, so it's an opportunity for partners to to get better on their top line, but also to increase and improve on their bottom line.
Okay, very good. Now, just one last point about cloud security, because that's a big focus for Trend. We see a trend moving more towards hyperscaler cloud marketplaces like AWS Marketplace. Is that something that's happening in EMEA? And if so, what does that mean for the partners? Is that a threat to the partners if you're traditional resellers and managed service providers?
Yeah, I think for, as you call it, the traditional channel, right? Traditional resellers. We still come across with a lot of discussions and dialogues with those traditional resellers and partners who definitely still see that as a threat. But we are working really, really closely together with AWS, and actually AWS. Actually, I had a meeting with some AWS executives from EMEA last week in London, and they again shared their willingness and their appetite to work together with any type of partner. And the good news is they have created a partner friendly platform, which I'm sure the AWS CPPO program. Yeah, it basically enables every type of partner or reseller to basically participate and to be involved in the deal and in the transaction. Yeah, and I mean, we have more than 2/3 of all of the AWS Marketplace transactions and deals where Trend Micro is involved actually is where there is a dedicated CPPO involvement as well. Yeah.
Okay, that's very good. That's very positive to hear. Great. Well, thank you, Frank. I want to leave you with one last question, which is, what is your one recommendation to the partners, to your partner community, in terms of where they should focus in 2022?
Yeah, and that's a good question. And it's kind of hard and difficult for me to just call out one. But I'm super passionate about one topic. And the reason why I mentioned this, Alastair, is this is actually also a learning that we went through internally. A lot of us in the cybersecurity community, we have been in this business for many, many years, right? And in the past, I don't know if we may go back 10, 15 years, security was kind of an isolated topic. Yeah, and you always talked about security in the sense of security, right? Certain features and certain protection layers. Security now, again, looking at the tsunami of digital transformation, which triggers a lot of strategic IT transformation initiatives in companies, and the regulatory aspect, as discussed earlier on, requires us, and by us I mean the vendors and the partners, to far better understand actually the business strategy of the customer, because the business strategy kind of defines the IT strategy, and that's basically at the end of the day then defines the security strategy. So it's more than ever before, if you don't understand the business strategy of the company, then you're definitely missing out opportunity.
That's a great recommendation, and very much aligns with what we were saying as well. So thank you for that. Good to talk to you, Frank, and look forward to seeing you at the event.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. See you next week, Alastair. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.